Rama Rama Hare Hare. On the table. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Oh, Premanandi, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Harinama Sankirtan ki jai. So welcome all to you today here. Thank you for coming. If we need a check, translation, you will translate for Narayani. Please summarize at least something.
She can get something.
Yeah. So some of our devotees have gone on Harinam Sankirtan. Where have they gone today, Jivananda's gone, I think. Where have they gone? Somewhere nearby they're doing Harinam Sankirtan. So if you get bored here, you can go and join the Harinam party. We hope you don't get bored. How can you get bored? By hearing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj or about him. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shvayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shiva Shabani Videvi Dayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premaja Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Gora Karuna Shakti Vigraya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shimotaye Dinatarine Upanuga Varuda Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. I made it. I didn't know I could remember that. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna. Oh, we've said that already. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we'll read today from a chapter in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, the biography, extensive biography of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who established basically the teachings of Rupa Goswami in a systematic way in our modern world, so to speak. And today we're reading at chapter 11. Before the class started, one devotee asked about chanting the holy names, and I'd already decided we'd read this chapter, so I said, wait until we read the chapter and then see what happens. This chapter is quotes of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, incidences in regards to the holy name, and other devotees' recollections, so to speak, his disciples. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Glories to the congregational chanting of Krishna's names. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said this. This is what he said. Shri Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan is the Gaudiya Mass sole object of worship. It's the only purpose of the Gaudiya Mass. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. Are you translating or not? To spread the glories of the holy name everywhere. This is the sole object, goal of the Gaudiya Mass. This is our worship. We worship this statement of Lord Chaitanya. Normally people worship, they think of deities. Radha, Krishna, Sita Ram, Gaurnitai, Jagannath, other forms of the Lord in South India, many forms. Maybe they think of worship of the demigods, God in general. But here, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. This is our worship. And you cannot measure the depth for a pure devotee that has no depth. It is unending. Their attachment to the holy name has no limits. We may sometimes feel some degree of attachment, sometimes, when we feel good, when people are listening to us chant. Sometimes the weather affects us. Other factors, mostly it's our minds, sometimes our bodies, and so many factors, external factors. But for a pure devotee, there is no inhibition, there is no obstacle between them and Krishna. They have absolute attraction. Whenever devotees inquired how to improve their bhakti and overcome anarthas, he usually stressed the need to chant faithfully and offenselessly. Quoting Lord Chaitanya's statement, "Iha te sarva siddhi haibe sabar." By this alone, all perfection will come. By offenseless chanting of the holy names. He advised, chant the Mahamantra loudly and with attachment. You well know that there are different kinds of chanting. Well, that will come up later more than here. But some recommend Manisaka Japa, or chanting silently, but certainly congregational chanting is not Manisaka, it's Vachaka. It's loud. It should be as loud as possible, at least in open space. Maybe not in a closed room, but generally speaking, congregational chanting is performed with the public, outside. And traditionally temples were not so much, at least in North India, they're not so closed. Many times they had open sides. South India even more. Open-sided, mostly in South India, the temples are open-sided. So loud gongs and chanting and drums, the sound just goes out and continues to go out. When you have walls, the sound comes back in, and still it's transcendental, but loudly. The loud chanting, he says, will drive away inertia, worldly ills, and disturbances. So sometimes we have to chant loud. Even japa sometimes, but you have to bear in mind the situation. But sometimes devotees will go somewhere where they can, or sometimes in the beginning of japa we used to chant loudly together. At least one round maybe. He maintained that chanting the Lord's names is tantamount, or is equivalent of, tantamount to seeing Him. Not easy for conditioned souls to relate to that statement. The pure devotees see the Lord through sound vibration. In the material world of duality, of separatism, the senses, the objects, they're all, in a sense, distinct from each other. You don't see with your ears. You don't taste with your eyes. There's a certain type of visual taste, but it's not the same as the tongue. You don't smell with your whatever, ears or something. The Lord and His name are one and the same. There is no difference between the name of Krishna, Namachintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. There's no difference between the name of sound vibration. The Lord is absolute. And pure devotees fully feel His presence in the sound of the holy name. There's no difference between the name, between the Lord and His name are one and the same. Chanting the holy name is equivalent to directly experiencing Him. Just like when we come before the deities, we may be somewhat attracted and we may feel some emotions of some kind. It's not necessarily the transcendental relationship in full, but we do have a feeling that Krishna's here of some kind or another. We may not remember that so easily when we chant the holy names. But this is actually the form the Lord has mainly appeared in this age. Even when we're in front of the deities, what we really can see and what we can see is not necessarily the Lord in His full transcendental vigraha form. We have some degree, but some relative perception is there. Chanting, of course, is another, which is what this chapter is about. So how can we appreciate the Lord's presence in this Namarup form of the name? He always emphasized Harinam as the topmost sadhana. He installed many deities around India, many temples, but he always insisted that even in the worship of the deities, the Sankirtan was the primary form of worship. It's not just the puja, as we call it, but the kirtan, the glorification of the Lord. The Lord appears in the form, and we'll see here, he says, to make us wholly devoted to Krishna's name, Sri Gaurangadev, the combined form of Sri Radha and Govinda, came to this world. But if we disregard his teachings and show no interest in Sri Nama Seva, we will never attain auspiciousness. Then he goes on, a very famous quote, Sri Nam Sankirtan is the best sadhana. If other sadhanas, and you know what sadhana means? Practicing devotional service, different types of practices. If other sadhanas help us in Krishna Sankirtan, then they deserve to be called sadhana. If they help us in Nam Seva, Nam Sankirtan. Otherwise, he says, they are simply impediments to sadhana. They may appear to be sadhana, but he doesn't consider them to be sadhana unless they help us in Nam Seva. Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan is the emperor of all sadhanas. It is the only infallible sadhana. Fallible means unfailing, it means assured, capable of bringing us to siddhi or perfection. Sriman Mahaprabhu did not speak of teaching Archana, but in Sikshastakam he taught Nam Bhajan. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, although he certainly did show all loving respects and devotion to deities wherever he went, but there's Of course, he did give deities in certain cases to devotees, but otherwise he did not install deities. His followers may have done, for the sake of others mainly, and for their own worship. But he did not. He did not speak of teaching archana, but in Sikshastakam he taught nama bhajan. The word bhajan and kirtan, although sometimes devotees say kirtan means together, kirtan does not mean together. Kirtan means loud chanting. Sankirtan means together. Kirtan doesn't necessarily mean together. It means loud chanting. In definition-wise, it's interchangeable. We use it interchangeably. Japa is silent chanting, mainly in Sankirtan, congregational chanting. Japa, as we know it, is basically our own practice. And certainly if one's advancing in Krishna consciousness, one will feel tremendous taste there, and one will feel Krishna's presence in any service. But specifically the Yuga Dharma, specifically the emphasis of Lord Chaitanya is on congregational chanting of the holy name. Krishna and Krishna Nam are not two identities. Krishna is his holy name. And just thinking about that before we start chanting japa can help. To remember that Krishna is his name, or he in the name. Sometimes we say the name is not it's not wrong to say it's the name of God, but it is God. It's kind of wrong. It's not a complete understanding. When we say it's the name of God, we infer there's a kind of maybe, there's God and there's the name. In the world that we're in, they are different from each other. They're related, but they're different. On the absolute platform, there is no such difference. The Nam and the Nami, the named and the name, who is the name and the named, the person who name it refers to, are one and the same. Krishna Nam is the son of Nanda. Just imagine giving birth to a name. I've had a son. Where is he? Whatever it is. John. Where is he? John. There's no physical personality present before your eyes. It's just a name. You'll think you're crazy. Materially speaking, you would be. But spiritually, we perhaps don't experience that, but through the service to the name that the form manifests. Krishnanam is the son of Nanda, is Shyam Sundar himself. Our only devotional service and duty, this is a pretty strong statement, our only devotional service and duty is Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan. This understanding is auspicious. We sometimes relegate Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan to a kind of a weekend, excursion to the park or to somewhere or another. If at all, we may, of course we perform Sri Krishna Sankirtan in homes or in temples, but in public places we maybe not so much. But this was the life and soul of Chaitanya's movement. The life and soul of the movement is Sri Krishna Sankirtan. A Pandit who apparently considered chanting Harinam an elementary practice for neophyte spiritualists, means a beginner's practice, basically, like you go to school, ABCs, asked him, why are you chanting Harinam so much? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati replied with the exemplum that a young child first learns to write ABC. If when older he is writing ABC in an algebra equation. His grandmother may ask, why is he still studying at the same level as when he was 5 years old? She does not see that what appears to be the same exercise is actually on a significantly higher platform. Most spiritual practices lead up like a ladder, and you go from one step to the next, intensifying, or whatever it is, your yoga practices, or the type of knowledge which you acquire, or maybe from one type of yoga to a higher form of yoga, and so on. But Srinam Sankirtan is there in the beginning stage. As Krishna says, I am the beginning, middle, and end of everything. Beginning stage, middle stage, and perfectional stage. It's not that at a certain period, okay, I don't chant anymore. I've achieved my goal of chanting, I chant no more. Sometimes we may have, maybe not consciously, but it seems sometimes that happens. It may not be a conscious endeavor, but it sort of happens that when we start our devotional service, we're Hare Krishna all over the place. Wherever you go, it's Hare Krishna. Then after 10 years, it's only Hare Krishna when you have to chant Hare Krishna, or you're supposed to chant Hare Krishna. 16 rounds, bas, finished. Arti, if you happen to be there. And half the time, you look around, a lot of devotees are not chanting. And many times we older devotees are not chanting. I looked around this morning, several older devotees were not chanting. And others were not chanting, especially the Mridanga players. In many cases, the drum players, or the big wampers, not the small ones, the big ones, oftentimes they're not chanting. The djembe players are very rarely chanting. 1 out of 10, if you have a djembe. It's almost like distraction to chant the holy name. But even Mridanga players, many times, they don't chant. If you had been in a kirtan here 15 years ago at 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the evening, and you were playing Mridanga and you were not chanting, you would get a heavy chastisement. You get the fierce, energetic chastisement of Indra Prabhu. He couldn't tolerate musicians who didn't chant the holy name at the same time. Couldn't tolerate it. And so rightly so. They should chant. Even pujaris would all chant. I was watching the pujari yesterday. As mum as you could get. Not a single movement of the lips, the whole arti. The devotees used to chant like anything while they were doing the arti. They would sometimes lead the arti. The pujari who was doing the arti itself would be leading the kirtan. And sometimes jumping up and down as they're doing the arti. Can you imagine that now? They would remove you from the daily service if you tried to do that now. You can't imagine. Okay, it was kind of like childlike in a sense, but the spirit was, Hare Krishna all the way. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is saying that, yes, maybe you may think like that, but you don't understand that even at the higher stages, in algebra, ABC is also there. It's a part of the formula too. But it's a much higher substance. And as one cultivates one's service to the holy name, the chanting of the holy name, enters into different dimensions, you could say. The relationship starts to develop on a higher level. It's the same mantra. This is the unique thing, beginning, middle, and end. Chanting Hare Krishna is our sadhana and our sadhya, our practice and our goal of life. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta explained, chanting Hare Krishna is postgraduate dharma. It's above all other dharmas. When Krishna says you surrender, give up all other dharmas and surrender unto me, he's basically introducing the Sankirtan movement. Surrender unto me entirely. That means absorb yourself in Sri Krishna Sankirtan. That's a practical understanding of Sarva Dharman Parityagya. Just as you never weary of calling your children's names every day, when we chant the names of Krishna with love, we don't become jaded. Just like a parent. Oh. And there was silence. This, unfortunately, doesn't seem to have an ability to change its speed. The parent never tires of calling upon their child. You have your child, you know. You don't get bored. Oh God, I called on his name yesterday. Why again I have to call his name today? You never think like that. You're happy to call your child's name. Gaurang? Gaurang? Gaurang. See? He immediately responds. And because you called his name. You call Krishna's name. He responds, but then we don't take any notice of his response. You'll lose interest. When we chant the names of Krishna with love, we don't become jaded. It doesn't fade away. We're not like disheartened or disinterested at all. Never becomes dry. Nama Gane Sadaruchi. Devotees are characterized. It's a characteristic of a devotee. We heard yesterday. The hallmark of a devotee is simplicity. But the characteristic of a devotee, even in chanting, simplicity is there. But the characteristic of a devotee is by unceasing taste for reciting the holy names. They never become bored, never become like, dejected or anything. They're always in this mood of reciting the holy names of Krishna. Not just mechanically. Mechanical chanting is there in the beginning, when we chant a fixed number of rounds in a certain process, and we chant at certain times. But the more we chant, the more the attraction can develop, especially when we chant outside of the expected. It rises a little bit of our own will, our own choice. Maybe you have time to chant more than 16 rounds, or chant while you're doing your service, etc. We want to chant more and more, I said. We want to chant more and more. In the early days of the mission, Srila Saraswati Thakur occasionally led kirtan. However, not being very musically adept, later on he did not lead kirtan or play musical instruments, but simply joined in singing with others. Recite the holy name. Even if you don't sing, explaining the name is kirtan. He spelled out the necessity and method of performing Hari Kirtan. This is what he said. Hari Kirtan is the perpetual and natural function of all the faculties of the jiva in a state of freedom from all affinities. That means free of all attraction to this world. Because the absolute truth is identical with Hari, devotional service, particularly chanting. So it appears their motivation is to bring us to devotional service. Not to bring us to them, see how much I know. No, they want to connect everything with Krishna. When we talk mundane, we want everything connected to us, listen to me, and so on and so forth. That's not the nature of a devotee. Others may misunderstand, but their motive is to bring us to remember Krishna, to see everything in relationship with Krishna. The only function of the voice is to chant Hari Kirtan, which is non-different and inseparable from simultaneous service to Hari by all the other senses. One who does not employ his voice incessantly and exclusively in chanting Hari Kirtan has no access to Hari Seva by any other means. This is the gateway, you could say, to pure devotional service, and even other services themselves. Eternal service to Hari, unless we employ our voice in incessantly and exclusively chanting, we have no access to Hari Seva. Other means will not give us that access. They're meant to say support, like we engage in so many services. One time Prabhupada said, at least we were told by one of his closest assistants, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhu, who said that Prabhupada told him that I have to constantly think about, think of services to give us, because we can't chant Kirtaniya Siddhar, constant chanting. We're very distracted. We have an artist. We have offensive mentality. So by engaging our senses in various ways, this benefits us. It creates auspiciousness. It attracts the mercy of Krishna. It makes sure that we don't engage in activity which will further cover our consciousness. And it also has a purifying effect on our consciousness, of course. It assists in the spreading of Krishna consciousness in various ways. So it prepares us, purifying us, so we can approach the holy name offenselessly. We may not have an awareness of how to do that, and we may not have even an awareness of the necessity of doing that. But through service, the Lord says, do you want a chair? You need a chair, don't you? There's a free chair. There you go. The service is very important. It helps us to develop the right attitude also towards approaching the name. Humility. Therefore, Hari Kirtan must be chanted while being humbler than a blade of grass. Other types of services, when we render menial service under the direction of the authority, helps us to develop a humble mood. Going into public, distributing books or Harinam or whatever, also helps us to develop this, should do, this humble mood, which is required to actually access Hari's Seva. There can be no streak of worldly vanity or seeking after any worldly advantage. There might be. We may want some privilege, we may want some recognition, or some reward, some relief. It may be there in the beginning, but that's mixed. It's not. It has to be cleansed out. The only object should be to please Krishna in everything we do. He insisted that kirtan should not degenerate. This is the point to be taken into account, and we can't judge by what we see necessarily either. Because we have imperfect consciousness and perfect vision. We may be judging imperfectly, but we have to be careful that kirtan does not degenerate into an artistic show, sense gratification. And it can. We have to be careful not to get caught up by that. He said, kirtan performed for sensual satisfaction is not Hari Kirtan. That's a very big topic. And it's the whole topic in one sense. Performing kirtan, would you like some water? Who'd like water? Anyone like water, please fill the cup. If we're chanting thinking, I'm chanting so I feel happy, is that sensual gratification? I would chant, I want to be happy. Is that sense gratification?
Depends.
Pardon?
Depends, because the chanting, the result of chanting should be happy, but you should not chant to be happy.
Prabhupada said chant and be happy, didn't he? We usually kind of equate the two to be here and now,